The theme today is three Purushas. We have covered considerable ground on the subject during our earlier discussion of the two Prakritis and the three poieses of the transcendent. This is, in a way, a kind of recapitulation of the philosophy of the three Purushas. Naturally, we begin with our world, where we are, the realm of Prakriti. Prakriti governed by ignorance, ruled by ego. In this world, the Gita announces that it is a play of the spirit. There is a mighty universal spirit at sway in this universe, acting through the nature. Nature is her own instrumentation, and the spirit spreads itself in a million centers, which we call the jivas, and develops relations with each other, organizes the life movement, not directly, but through nature. Nature, however, is not conscious of this driving spirit behind. That is why it is called Prakriti, sunk in ignorance, liable to be driven by forces which are not conscious, which are not directed by the spirit. That is why, because of this gulf between the awareness of nature and the spirit behind it, there is so much of disharmony, so much of conflict, friction, pain and evil suffering in our world, where you are cut off from your source and live on the surface. That is what happens. And the world goes round and round. That is why many of the ancient traditions convict this world of futility, always turning round and round without a purpose, and it is best to reject this world. But the Gita insists on treating this world as real, not as an illusion, not as a product of Maya, but as an embodiment of the spirit. It maintains that the Kshara also, Kshara is the mobile, the mutable spirit spreading itself in this world, that also is the Purushottam. The Gita's emphasis that the Kshara also is divine, but divine in its source, divine at an inner level. Whatever may be the appearance of the surface, it is directed, overseen, governed by the Spirit. If any one of us can detach our vision from the external superficialities and become conscious of the inner layers of our being, we can see that there is something else which is not transitory, which is not changing, which is something permanent. And that supports this movement of the Kshara, this movement of the mutable. And this poise of the spirit, which is not in movement, which is immutable, which is impersonal, that is the Akshara. The Gita makes it very clear that the Akshara, impersonal, immovable reality, is not opposed or contrary to the Kshara. In fact, Kshara is possible, Kshara is alive because of the support it enjoys from the Akshara. So both the Akshara and the Akshara, the Gita points out, are complementaries, not contradictories. The Akshara supports the Kshara. And when one withdraws in some part of the consciousness from involvement in the Kshara, one has the experience of that calm, peace, and a sense of something eternal. That is the first door of escape, if you treat it that way, or a door opening into another realm of life. For those of the ancient tradition who treated this world as a product of illusion, Maya, the immutable, the Akshara was the goal. It is true that once you are in that status, voice of consciousness, all this movement, constant changes from moment to moment, gyrations, they look as if they are froth and bubbles, with no reality of their own. Ultimately, they come to nothing. So, it appears as if the world is after all not real. What is real is this state of calm and eternal peace and joy, serenity. The moving world is Maya. And they hasten to come to the conclusion that it is a falsehood or a secondary formation which loses its value and reality the moment you step into a higher dimension. The mother also points out that if you go deeper or a little higher, you very well see that what you thought the world to be is not true. It is something else. The Vedantins stopped at this position that what I thought is not real. It has no meaning. Mother says, and this is supported by the Gita, that what is false, what commits itself of falsity, is our picture of the world. The world as it is has its own reality, which we miss when we concentrate our vision on the surface. When you go deep, when you look with another vision, everything on earth reveals a different significance, a different truth of its existence. So, you realize that the appearance of illusion is in your mind. What you thought falls down. You see the world as it is, bereft of the formations of Maya. And what is Maya? Maya, at its lower levels, functionings, is a power of the spirit subjecting itself to the play of the gunas. It is playing the part of an ignorant power. But once you rise above the mutable level, you see the same power in its higher dimension. That it is a direct power of the spirit. The question arises whether for liberation resort to this immutable akshara is not the easiest way. That is true if your soul will allow you to take that path. Every soul, every jiva has a destiny. Some have it to cancel themselves. Exercise their choice to cancel themselves. The divine gives freedom to everyone to choose his destiny, to choose his goal. Some choose to obliterate themselves, defeating the intention in nature. But once you see that the world is not what you thought it to be, the door opens to a still greater truth. You realize that even the akshara, even the immutable, is not the final goal. With all its compulsive, overwhelming impact on your mind, you begin to realize that the akshara also is only a step. Akshara was a step. Akshara is a second step. Both of them leading to some other position, a third step, if you will. And that is the status of the Purushottama, the one of whom both the Kshara and the Akshara are two sides. This Purushottama is called variously the Uttama Purusha, the transcendent, the one who assumes these positions for his manifestation. And it is when this awareness dawns on the consciousness of the human being, of the Supreme Purusha, who is above both the Kshara and the Akshara, that all the knowledge, all the works that have been done, they combine to produce a flow of the soul, a devotion, a loving adoration of the Supreme. So it is when you are on the threshold of the Purushottama, above both the Kshara and the Akshara, that there is a revolution in your consciousness. You begin to relate yourself to the Purushottam through these cords of love. You can't help it. You go down in adoration, and all your knowledge brings you to that point of recognizing him as the master of your being. And you see the true principles of this world existence. You also realize the truth of the Advaita philosophy, Advaita position. When you detach yourself from the Kshara and retire, however temporarily, in the poise of the Akshara, where there is the impersonal and the immutable, you find that's the only thing, only reality. All these multiple realities of the universe, they have no meaning, they do not stand scrutiny, and you are one with the Brahma as the immutable. That is the Advaita. But you are also an individual. There is the Jiva, the soul, who is a spark of God. That does not die. It cannot die because it is a portion of the immortal being. And the soul within insists on having relation to this supreme term. There is a direct link between the inner soul and the Purushottam. There is a relation, and this possibility of conscious relation, awareness of link between oneself and the Supreme Master is what gives rise to the Vishishtadvaita, qualified monism. The Lord is there, He is the true principle, He is the true reality, no doubt. But this also is true. A relation is possible. So you qualify the monism to a certain extent. So that also is true. And when, as a result of this realization, you put on the divine nature, the nature of the Purushottam, that, says the Gita, is the supreme liberation. Not detachment and merger in the immutable Brahman, but staying where you are, experiencing at one level the impersonal consciousness, involved another level in the active dynamism of the universe, and both together participating in the divine nature, which has both for its complementary sides. That is liberation, because there, in the supreme liberation of likeness to the divine nature, sadharmya mukti, you ignore nothing. You exclude no part of the divine's manifestation. You do not arrogate to yourself a superior position to the Kshara, which is itself a form and a movement of the eternal. The Isha Upanishad particularly puts this fact to the fore, that knowledge and ignorance, oneness and multitude, mortality and immortality, they are not opposites, but complementaries. And no knowledge is true, no knowledge is total unless it embraces both. The Isha goes even to the extent of saying that if you ignore, refuse to participate in the movement may be a movement of ignorance, and shut yourself only in the light of knowledge, you are entering into a greater darkness. It is possible to release yourself from the darkness of ignorance, but to break out of the shell of knowledge, a partial knowledge even, which gives the appearance of an integral knowledge, that is more difficult. So the Isha says, it is only when you participate in both the movement, the double movement of knowledge and of ignorance and knowledge, of mortality and immortality, that you qualify to participate in divine nature. And in divine nature, you see both the movements as one leading to the other, one presiding and helping and supporting the other. This, says Sri Aurobindo, is Purna Advaita, true integral monism, which does not admit any fissure, any break in the total integral being of God. It is our mind that bisects, this is true and this is not. Our limited mind exceeds its brief and ascribes its own limitation to the divine nature. What God has made whole, what is human intelligence to divide into the true and the not true, into the false and the real? They are degrees of reality. Even ignorance is knowledge in preparation. The first step is always ignorance. Nobody is born with full knowledge. It is through the winding roots of ignorance that you arrive at the threshold of knowledge. And having arrived at knowledge, it is incumbent on you to come back to the territory ruled by ignorance and enlighten it. Set right the dispositions, the disharmonies caused by blind ignorance. You have to restore what ignorance has separated. And it is only when you see the manifestation as a whole that you can breathe the consciousness of the Purusha. It is also then that the Trimarga, the three roots of progress, knowledge, works and love, they synthesize and they come together because they intermingle and produce that harmony, that rhythm of music which is celestial. That brings us to the close of discussion of the three Purushas. One thing to be emphasized, that each one of us is the three Purushas. We are aware of none. We are aware at the moment only of our pseudo-self, ego Purusha. First step is to become aware of the Purusha that is within you. It is the easiest. And that he is a portion of God. He is the immortal in mortals. He is the divine guest. The Veda says he is the guest, but here it points out that he is the occupant. He is the owner of the house. And having stationed yourself in that status of the individual divine, you spread out, identify yourself with the universal Purusha. And in identifying yourself with the universal Purusha, you do not lose your identity. You maintain your identity, but you enjoy the universal force. And in the process of widening out, of identifying yourself with the universal Purusha, you also look upwards. And that is the Supreme Purusha, who is always there, overhead, supporting both our front of ignorance, the self of equality and knowledge, and overseeing it. So these, to realize the three Purushas, is the object of the integral yoga. The foundations have been laid in the Gita. And Sri Aurobindo has added more dimensions to it. There will be some other occasion for us to discuss what are Sri Aurobindo's developments which have added new dimensions to the Gita, yoga of the Gita.